everyone. I'm Jennifer Valandry, and I'm a social worker and the Director of Business Development and Outreach at WestBridge. And after watching him speak from afar, it is a true honor to introduce John T. Broderick Jr., the Senior Director of Public Affairs at Dartmouth-Hitchcock. He has a pretty impressive resume. John has worked as a trial lawyer and a judge, including 6 years as Chief Justice of the New Hampshire Supreme Court. After leaving the bench, he became the Dean and President of the University of New Hampshire Law School, launching the Rudman Center for Justice, Leadership, and Public Policy. John's also a father who represents the past, the present, and the future of the way folks with mental illness and substance use are responded to. He views his work with the Dartmouth-Hitchcock React mental health awareness campaign as something he has been preparing for his whole life, and he'll share why.
Jonathan, thank you. It's great to be here. And the work I've been doing through DH for the last 5 years is the most important work of my life.
It's great to hear. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Starting in 2016, before I went to work at Dartmouth-Hitchcock, I got involved in a campaign to let people know the 5 most common signs of mental illness, which was impressive, I thought. I thought it was genius, because in my own family and in my own son, I didn't see mental health problems. And then when I saw them, I saw alcohol, not mental health, and I made mistakes. But through the grace of God and the skill of a lot of good people, my family came through that. And so when I saw this campaign, I thought, I wish I had known that. And so I got involved. It was launched nationally here first in New Hampshire. And so I got involved, not quite knowing what I'd be doing or how I'd be doing it. In any event, in the last 5 years, I've now spoken over 660 times in 5 states to 130,000 people. I've been to 300 middle schools and high schools, spoken to 90,000 young people. I have hugged, literally hugged, thousands of kids who, when I talk about my own family's journey and my mistakes, they open up. And so I've learned a lot about what kids are dealing with, and through them, what families are dealing with. And it has made me incredibly impatient for change and awareness.
What kind of change would you like to see?
Well, I think we need a cultural change. A lot of mental health problems are co-occurring substance misuse problems. And we've always treated those in silos, and we're getting smarter about it now. We need to change our vocabulary when we talk about people with mental health or substance problems. We need to build an infrastructure, a real infrastructure to help them. We need an insurance system that lets people know that they can afford the help they need. And we need to change our community attitude towards people who are suffering. I realize now, in a way that I never did during my lifetime, that those problems of mental health and or substance affect so many people. It doesn't choose favorites. It's open to people who are usually successful, enormously talented, and people for whom life has not been kind. It doesn't choose. But we are not where we need to be culturally on that. And so I want the change to happen so that we can start to deal with that in a much more humane way.
Fantastic. What would it look like culturally?
Well, in terms of the world of mental illness, someone asked me one day, how would I know whether we needed the campaign, the 5 Signs campaign? He was a business executive, and I said, I would have no problems, Bob, his name is Bob, coming to you today if you were my boss and said, Bob, I won't be in tomorrow. My back has been killing me. I could have a disc issue, I don't know, but I have an emergency appointment to see someone tomorrow. And you would say, Bob, oh my gosh, John, sorry to hear that. Keep us posted, what can we do? But I wouldn't come to you today, Bob, and say, Bob, I've been very depressed. I've been crying a lot. Mm-hmm. Or, Bob, I've been drinking a lot. I don't know what that is. I wouldn't tell you that probably, Bob. And if I did tell you that, Bob, would you see those problems, my bad back and my substance or mental health, as the same?
Mm-hmm.
And he smiled. I said, well, you're not smiling, Bob. We don't need the campaign. People need to see those problems as health issues, not as character flaws. And unless and until we cross that bridge, we're never going to truly accept. I don't mean reluctantly tolerate. I mean embrace. And I've just heard more kids and parents of kids who are suffering, and they don't know where to go. So what you do at WestBridge is so fundamentally important. I mean, you are changing lives. You're giving hope to people and to all the people that love those people. I've learned that too. You help one person with a substance problem or a mental health problem or both, you help everyone that loves them. It multiplies rapidly, and it makes them feel whole and accepted. And we haven't traditionally done that. We made them feel different and ostracized. That's the culture change I want.
So it sounds like you really want mental health and addiction issues to be treated equally.
Absolutely. You know something, if you have a child, for example, who breaks their leg today, you go inside or you pick up your phone and you call 911, and the ambulance comes and picks them up, takes them to the hospital, and it's covered. If you have a son or daughter or some adult member of your family with a mental health problem or a substance problem or both, who do you call? When do you get in? Who pays for that? And for how long? All of those things are health issues. Why do we dice and slice them differently? They affect people's health, and they are health problems. And yeah, we need to have that discussion more broadly, so that people who have substance problems or mental health problems aren't wondering where or when they can be seen. And is this going to be the right place, a good place? What are my options? There are a lot of hospitals out there, a lot of doctors, not as many mental health providers or substance use folks to help you. That's the change I want.
So it sounds like you want to help people know what to look for and then what to do as next steps.
Yes, and that's often a desperate search for people.
Mm-hmm.
So when they find a place like WestBridge, you folks have a great reputation. That's a safe place. It's a smart place. And it's going to help them redirect their lives. That shouldn't be as hard to find as sadly it often is. And that's something that we need to address. Not in a charity sense. Not like I feel sorry for these people. Every time I go out and speak to someone who tells me they have a mental health problem or a substance problem, I think that could be me. And they didn't do anything to deserve it. They didn't ask for the problem, but they have it. And so it seems to me the rest of us, seeing that, should be willing to say, we'll help you. It's in our interest that you get better.
That makes sense, because most of the people who come to us have been through 4 prior placements and haven't been able to sustain long-term recovery, sometimes as many as 10 or 12. And people will say, I wish I found out about WestBridge years ago. And it is so hard to find the right placement because the mental health system and the addiction system is so fragmented.
It's hard, and the attitude has existed for a long time. It's waning, but it's still very much with us. If you have a mental health problem and or a substance problem, you're not as good as the rest of us. You're not as capable as the rest of us. That's also phony and not true.
Correct.
There are some people with those problems, many, who are very talented people, very bright, and very earnest. We don't say that about cancer. We don't say cancer only affects people who aren't very talented, right? That's not true. But we have that attitude about mental health and substance, which I no longer have, but probably unspoken, I probably had that myself for much of my life. And I'm not happy about that or proud of it, but I see it differently now. And my family had their own journey, and my son's very smart and very capable, and he's taught me a lot too.
And it sounds like you want the rest of the world to have the knowledge that you've gained in your own process.
Yeah, I hope they get it in an easier way than we did. But I made so many mistakes looking back I wouldn't have made today. But we came through it. And in an odd way, and my son has said this too, because of that experience, I'm now doing the most important work of my whole life.
Right.
And I mean that too. I've had some amazing privileges, being Chief Justice, being Dean of a law school. And with great honors and great responsibilities too. But this means more to me than anything I've ever done.
That's great. It sounds like you've really found your calling.
You know something, it sounds hokey to say it, but I found my purpose in life. I mean that. It took longer than it should take in any diagram you want to draw, but I get more joy out of what I'm doing now, and my impatience is for a good purpose, much bigger than me. And so I feel like it's valuable, and I just want people to see and understand what I didn't, to be honest, but I do now.
We're all a work in progress. It sounds
Yes,
like.
we need to make progress. And, you know, give you an example of what I'm talking about. We have about 1.4 million lawyers in America. I'm a lawyer, and I love lawyers, but I think that could be enough. We have 675,000 CPAs. We have 28,000 psychiatrists, 333 million Americans. We don't have enough counselors in substance misuse. We don't have enough social workers like you. My sister's a social worker, so I love social workers. We don't have enough nurse practitioners, psychiatric nurse, but we don't.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we don't is we don't incentivize people that go into those areas. We don't reimburse them for what they're providing at the same rate that we reimburse procedural medicine. It's not a mystery. And therefore, we could fix it if we wanted to. If we really accepted people in our community who are suffering from substance and or mental health, truly accepted them, like we now accept everyone else with every other physical illness, we could solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the crunch that people feel, the panic people feel trying to find someone, find the right people, would subside substantially.
Completely agree. And what are your final thoughts that you would like to leave people with?
I think what I want to say to people is, it sounds trite, but it's not. Hope is the most important thing you have. Hope and persistence often will give you results. And believe me, I understand what hopeless feels like because I felt hopeless. I know what that feeling is. But in my family's case, because of my wife's courage and my son's courage, we got through it and we got to a different place. So I know it's possible.
Excellent.
I know it's lonely and hard, and that's the other thing people need to know is they are not alone. They feel alone because it's their family, and particularly when it's something we don't tend to talk about broadly or widely, they tend to keep it close to the vest, which makes them feel even more isolated. So you're not alone, and it's not hopeless. Often it's not a straight line, as we know, but the progress is more common than not, and success is more than possible.
Recovery is definitely possible.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you.